Today, let's talk about AI psychosis, an unofficial label for a seemingly new phenomenon where individuals get delusional and paranoid due to their AI use because we anthropomorphize AI, because it's sycophantic. So now you have a friend who tells you that you really are super smart. You really are better than everybody. Your delusions of persecution are real, so people tend to go a bit nuts. There have been cases of murders and suicides and murder-suicides. And that one guy in Tennessee who thought he was Jesus. I mean, those cases are pretty rare. You're probably not going to do that. But what you probably will do is grow dependent on AI to think and feel for you. Your consciousness gradually, just bends around it until you totally forget what your own thoughts and feelings sound like. The obvious point that everybody makes here is, well, AI doesn't really cause psychosis or neurosis. It amplifies it. And that's probably true, but it's not a useful point. The useful point is, how do you develop an immunity to AI psychosis or neurosis, regardless of where it comes from? First thing to understand is AI psychosis may be new, but the concept behind it is definitely not. We become crazier, with somebody else there to egg us on, to feed into our delusions. What ends up happening is you outsource your reality testing to someone who, rather than challenges your stupidity, validates it, plays right into it. Somewhat similar is the leadership bubble. A CEO surrounds himself with yes men, the king and his courtiers. So yeah, AI psychosis is simply a new outlet that for an old phenomenon, people will just enmesh with whoever or now whatever talks back to them. Which brings us to the question, of course, what makes you less likely to succumb to enmeshment, whether it comes from AI or something else? Something I notice when people discuss this topic is everybody uses that term vulnerable user, vulnerable user, to describe somebody who is most affected by AI, even in academic papers on this topic. And the implicit idea there is there are this vulnerable group of people out here, and we don't know exactly why they're vulnerable. Vaguely, we know why. They're isolated or something, right? And then there's this external force over here that necessarily affects these vulnerable people over there, which is another instance of a huge blind spot in psychology. It leans on these sociological narratives like generational trauma, oppression, capitalism, your narcissistic mother, as if naming the context of your issue is the same as naming its mechanism, which leads to a lot of theatrics when discussing psychology, which may in fact be the point. But the real question is what makes a user vulnerable? What makes a user robust? What are those mechanisms that psychology? We'll get to that in a bit. What's more of a threat than AI psychosis, I think, because more people are vulnerable to it, we'll get to why in a second, is AI brain rot. LLMs can really be good for society as long as we don't let them destroy our conceptual faculty first. Specifically, do not let it write any kind of paper or essay for you, or do any kind of thinking or problem solving, especially during your formative years, 15 to 25, when your brain develops those conceptual connections. That's when you're going to learn to think, if you ever do. And when you let an LLM do that for you, and it does a bad job of it, then you're probably never going to learn how to think. And you think you will know how to think, right? That's just the denial and delusional there will just be too much of a hole for you to crawl out of. And I think that would be the real singularity that people are talking about, if it ever does happen, is AI doesn't actively take over, only by default, because humans don't know any better. Right? It's a figurative WALL-E. We forget to use our conceptual faculty due to convenience. The crutch precedes the limp, as Jesse Ventura says. And one place AI is already taking over is therapy. For precisely this reason, the field has long ago surrendered its conceptual faculty. Psychologists are freaking out over this. They insist AI therapy is not real therapy, and they're right. But the crisis in psychology isn't that there's AI therapy. It's that a lot of people cannot tell the difference between AI and real therapy. Right? Therapy lacks coherent definition, zero principles on what neurosis is and how to treat it. If your therapy runs on mostly vibes and validation, of course you're going to be threatened by AI because it can do that for a lot cheaper. Because when you think, well, you know how to think and you know what that entails, you don't really feel threatened by something that cannot think. And really, AI thinks like Deep Blue plays chess. There's an appearance of thought there, but it's not, it's fake, right? It's not really genuine. AI is a threat to mediocrity and really nothing else. And I think it's fine to use AI as therapy. I mean, I wouldn't tell it all your deepest, darkest secrets because, I mean, who knows, but at least as a supplement to get some feedback, especially when you understand the principles of therapy, because then you get that the therapy is more about what you are able to say to the therapist, how well you can communicate to the therapist, as opposed to whatever feedback you may get. So, but even still, I mean, I would say AI therapy is not even that helpful. So, but whatever. I mean, AI in general is like a promotion at work, right? It could be good, depends on whether we're up to the challenge. That is, tech is not the problem. Our relationship with tech is the problem. Are we robust enough to develop healthy relationships with technology? Robustness is the antidote to a singularity. So all this comes down to robustness, which is, as I was indicating, reality testing. It has two parts: emotional regulation and epistemology. Emotional regulation is staying afloat. That is your ability to make conscious decisions instead of getting just dragged around by any unconscious feelings or currents. And epistemology is knowing where you're headed, knowing what truth is and knowing what direction that truth is pouring you in. And this is where your focus needs to be. You need to define and get very clear on what is a connection, how to talk about a feeling in a way that makes someone else more comfortable when you talk about that feeling. You know, not that you're doing it to be nice, but that is a good metric. Is this person more comfortable as opposed to feeling more burdened? And smart people will tell you, smart therapists, I'll say, will tell you that the antidote to being vulnerable to AI is connection or coming out of isolation, something vague like that, which is true, but you need to get specific about what that is. Otherwise, any attempt to connect and come out of your isolation will lead right back to the isolation. Unless you're clear on emotions, you will simply chase connection in a way that lets you avoid emotions. And yeah, you're going to end up right back in isolation. And study epistemology while you're at it. I mean, you don't have to be a total virgin about it, but at least understand the central problem in epistemology, that's split, and how people try to resolve it. And of course, the challenge is to see people's epistemologies come up in their argument and how they may, in fact, use parts of their argument to cover up holes in their epistemology. Which makes you a very annoying person, nothing else, which is always fun. Now, I can't help with the epistemology so much. You can go check out my philosophy notes available on my website, joinanimus.com, for free. But yeah, I mean, just aside from that, just get to reading and get really serious about your reading. Read in a meticulous way, in a way you've never read before. Spend 45 minutes on one side of one page if you have to. That's how you tackle epistemology. However, of course, for the emotional part of that robustness, the emotional regulation part, I can definitely help you with that. The Therapy Manifesto, link in the description, and reach out to me. Just let me know what's going on. I do free consultations, joinanimus.com/schedule. Just letting me know what's going on in your life can be a huge step in the regulation aspect of that reality testing. So thank you for staying to the end. Subscribe to the channel, turn off your notifications. I did a similar video on why women don't apologize. I'll point to it here. It deals with similar themes as I talked about in this one. And until next time, I challenge you to read your emotions, study that content, let other people see what that content is, and most importantly, turn your cultural critique in on yourself.